Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Retro Warriors, episode 273. As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by resident old bastard Chris Saturn.
Hello.
Hello. We do have some housekeeping. As always, you can check the episode description for timestamps to jump to the topic at hand.
Right.
And I think we're gonna have our producer Guy. I was gonna say I think, but I know I'm hosting the show. I'm aware of what is gonna happen.
That's good.
We are gonna have our
Glad
producer
you figured it
Guy
out
on
already.
after the ending theme for his monthly after party segment. So please do stay tuned for Guy and whatever he's gonna bring. We never know. We never vet it. It's we act like it's terrifying and he brings awful stuff.
Right.
It's always I don't know why.
It's gonna bring some.
I don't know what that guy's gonna bring me. Jeez.
Some harsh adult material.
The correct
I don't know
answer
why I
is
have to.
the thunder.
There you go. There's Guy. He's gonna bring the thunder.
Bringing the thunder.
So yeah, do stay tuned after the ending theme for that.
Indeed.
My week.
Yes, sir.
I bought more Digimon.
No, you don't say.
Yeah, I know. So for people that are unawares, because it's been a while since I talked about them, before Digimon was a global anime and video game franchise, it was virtual pets that you clicked together and they fought each other.
Uh-huh.
And they've re-released the virtual pets that click together and fight each other.
And you already
and
got
they look
them
just
like a year ago.
Well, Saturn, listen.
Okay.
I got wave 1, okay?
Uh-huh.
And so now they're on waves 2, and I've pre-ordered wave 3
Oh, boy.
because Saturn,
Uh-huh.
there are exclusive eggs on some of the specific colors of Digimons.
Do you get to eat the eggs?
No, but you can hatch little monsters out of it, and when they hatch, they look different than other monsters. They have no really other discernible differentiating qualities. They still poop the same and eat the same and fight the same, and you feed them and stuff.
Right.
But the little sprite on the screen, basically I paid $40 for 2 little tiny devices that will occasionally show me sprites and force me to push buttons.
You know, I think it says something about your engagement with these devices and how you feel about them, that when you list the actions that it can take, the first one you went to was poop.
Well, here's the thing. When caring for a virtual pet, and you may not know this because you're a normie.
Yeah.
When caring for a virtual pet, the number one concern is the poop.
Okay.
Because Saturn, they're trapped in there with their poop.
Right.
You know, so it's like locking your cat in the cat box, and if the poop is there for too long, they get sick, and if they get sick, they can die.
Yeah, if a dog is left with poop, it's having a good day. It's pretty exciting.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is why there are no dog-themed Digimon.
Oh, I see.
None, 0, not 1. Yeah, because they'd be fine.
Right.
So yeah, and the whole game of it is that if you treat them and raise them a certain way, like battle them this much, feed them this much, have this many care mistakes, which is like when they get sick or something,
Right.
then they evolve down these like branching chains into different Digimon. And the fun is trying to raise them in such a way to get a specific one.
Right.
And there are some specific ones that are on these newer ones that are not on my older ones. And I have to own them.
For some reason.
It is important. So I have 4 Digimon. I'm currently raising... I've got 2 devices. You can raise 2 monsters per device. Mm-hmm. And I'm currently running 2 devices. So I'm raising 4 total individual monsters on those 2 devices.
And I'm the normie.
Yeah, and you're the normie.
This is one of the first situations where I've been considered normal.
Well, congratulations.
Yay.
You should come to my weekly meetups. You'll feel really normal.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
But thankfully, now that some time has passed, the newer ones are more heavily documented online.
Okay.
So I can actually look up exactly the Digimon I want and work backward down the evolutionary chain and write notes on how to raise them specifically such that they turn into a different kind. And hopefully all of these skills can be applied to my human child. That's my goal.
Right.
I think it'll be, if I treat her right, she'll eventually evolve into a large metal dinosaur that shoots rockets.
Yeah, you looked up the evolution path for concert pianist.
Yeah.
And
so
you're strictly feeding her the correct amount of golden grams.
Yeah.
To someday.
And the correct amount is honestly too much. It's an excessive amount of golden grams.
Right. Well, if you want to succeed.
So in lieu of video games lately, I've been raising Digimon. That's what I've been doing. It's a full-time job having 4 little baby monsters and a human child and actual animals and a family to care for, okay?
That's good. I'm glad you caught up with your digital family as well as your actual family.
You know, I got my priorities straight. They're all my children are equally important to me.
That's good. I'm glad that your digital pets are equal to your live human child.
Look, all I'm saying is they all get fed and they all have to fight. That's the rule.
Well, do you still have to clean up after your human child's poop though?
Partially, and I'm not going to get into details because you don't want to know.
I don't want to know.
But partially.
Oh, okay.
That's a
well, hopefully not for much longer though.
We're on the tail end of it.
That's
there
good.
are some times when I don't have to do it.
That's right.
Except my Digimon, even when they grow up, I still have to clean their poop.
That's because unlike humans, Digimons are assholes.
That's true, and I guess all they know is battling each other
and poop
and pooping. What I do like about it, to continue talking about virtual pets
Clearly,
on a podcast in 2020,
like
there are a lot of things. But my favorite thing is you have to feed them. You feed them little. It's like little cartoon meats, right? It's like a bone and then the meat in the middle. But then you also have to feed them pills to make them stronger. So that when you fight them, they're stronger.
Yeah. Pop some more pills, pillhead.
Yeah, and I just love the idea of like, my baby is born. Here are your pills, baby. You're going to be eating these 4 times a day.
Just bring Dr. Mario in and he'll hurl them down their throat.
Yeah, and it's like a cartoon pill, just stuffing them full of steroids and then fighting them.
Perfect.
It's actually quite gruesome when I think about it. The more I think about it. What have you been up to?
So Super Mario Brothers 35 came out, which we discussed briefly in the news.
They made 34 previous Super Mario Brothers?
I know. Who would have thought? Actually, they probably have.
Yeah, they probably have.
So it's much like Tetris 99, but with Mario. And and I played a few hours of that last night and another hour or so today. So have you gotten a chance to try it yet?
I've not. I was not compelled to try it. I felt no urge to do so.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a so the way the standard mode works is all the players choose a random stage, anything from 1-1 through 8-4, which you don't have them all at first. You have to unlock them by having played them. But and then it takes all the stages that all 35 players chose and randomizes them, and then you just play through the stages in that order. And like in Tetris 99, you can choose to target people, and any enemies you kill appear on that person's screen, or they scroll in anyway, to the point to where eventually you end up with just like 100 Goombas all the time, because everybody is killing Goombas a lot. And you also have a little roulette that you can spend 20 coins on that will give you either a mushroom, a fire flower, a Starman, or a POW block, which will just kill everything at once. And it gets pretty ridiculous pretty quickly. But I am enjoying it. Matches last maybe 15 minutes if you are one of the last people alive, and much less if you are not. So it's just pretty silly. They did change the physics quite a bit from the original Super Mario Brothers. Like he has the bounce like in Mario 3. So it's a little different, but it's still fun. It's worth checking out, and I believe it is another one of those fucking limited time things. So
I don't understand that. Why Nintendo?
Yeah,
why are you going to develop a video game and go just for a little bit?
Right.
Like
it's just
why?
So frustrating.
Tetris 99, they were selling a box copy. I mean, granted, you were really just kind of paying for Nintendo Online.
Yeah.
But still,
but
like
it come with
it's
the
not
offline
limited.
Mode when you bought the box copy.
And it's like, why?
Yeah.
Why? I'll never understand it.
Right.
And we'll complain more about this very subject soon.
Right. Another one we'll talk about when we get to the news because it's actually in there, so I'll mention it then. But also, one of our listeners who goes by Captain Koloth, he noticed in one of our previous episodes, I think it was our last episode, that I had mentioned that I always wanted to find Mortal Kombat Trilogy and Fighters Megamix for Gamecom just to see how awful they were. And he mailed them to me because he had them. And oh boy, They are exactly as awful as I'd hoped they would be. It's so
Oh no.
it's so bad. It's so bad. Like the animation is surprisingly impressive for Gamecom, but compared to the games that they are trying to emulate,
It's like saying it's impressive for a flip book setting.
right? Exactly. It's very impressive for a flip book. It sounds like garbage. There's no music at all in either game. There's just occasional sound effects.
God.
It's just, if I remember right, the only ninja characters in Mortal Kombat Trilogy, which, if you remember, is a collection of the first 3 games and all of their characters, you have Rain and Reptile, who we know are the most popular ninja characters.
Of course they are.
And then Fighters Megamix I played around with for a minute. I'm not as familiar with the Saturn version of that, so I can't really lay into it, but it is a polygonal 3D fighting game ported down to the Gamecom. And
I cannot even
it's
imagine.
exactly what you think it is.
I think it's bad.
It's really bad. Unfortunately, in the process of doing this, I learned that the screen is dying on my Gamecom. So the amount of time that I can enjoy this terribleness is limited unless I either buy another Gamecom or pay someone to fix a fucking Gamecom.
You should not do either of those.
Neither of those
Saturn.
sound appealing. So
Some things are better left dead.
the time of me owning a Gamecom may be very limited at this point.
Well, we better get that Gamecom episode out quick then, huh?
Didn't we already do one?
Did we?
I think we made fun of the Gamecom for an episode.
I think you brought it over and I played it and I was like, it's so bad that I can't even talk about it on the show for an hour.
That might have been it. It might have been, should we do an episode on this terrible thing? And then you played it and
was
decided,
like, no, it's so
the
bad.
answer is no.
Let's jump into some news.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Updated reports say Ubisoft's Michel Ancel may have left the company amid accusations of toxic behavior.
Not at Ubisoft.
Shocking no one. Because that's just Ubisoft's thing. I don't even understand how it can be this widespread and terrible and ongoing.
If I remember right, that was our last news story last episode.
Because they left the game industry to go work with like animals or something.
Right. And we were like, good for him. It's shocking to see somebody from Ubisoft not leave under bad terms. But
yeah.
Oops.
Riot Games, Epic Games come under U.S. government scrutiny over ties to company Tencent. Which, good. I'm not a fan of Tencent, and they should be under scrutiny.
Yeah.
Sony apologizes for how shitty PS5 pre-orders went and promises more will be available soon. ? Sometime, didn't give a date or details.
Yeah, it hasn't happened as of yet. However, we'll get to the Xbox One or the Xbox Series X rather pre-orders.
Yeah.
And they have already opened up some additional pre-order slots since the initial day. So that's something.
I believe PS5 pre-orders have started. Some of them have started getting canceled.
Yes. Yeah, we got that later in the news.
Okay.
Yeah.
Microsoft bought Zenimax, which, as you know, includes Bethesda, Arcane Studios, id Software, etc.
Yeah.
For $7.5 billion, which is more than Disney paid for either Star Wars or Marvel.
It's also, if I remember right, it was like 1/3 of the total net value of the Sony Corporation.
I have to say, it does feel strangely right that Microsoft owns Doom.
Yeah?
You know, I don't know why. Doom has always been so synonymous with PCs and Windows for me. Granted, I know it's on everything.
Right.
But in my personal life, it is always just, it's like, oh, I'm playing a game. I'm on PC. Which version of Doom can I play that's not 3?
Right.
And that's just what all computers have always been that for me.
I love that the only Doom game that I really enjoyed is the one that you hate the most.
To be fair, I played it on Xbox and I didn't hate it. I was just like, it's not Doom. It's an okay shooter, but it's definitely not Doom.
Right.
And so, subsequently, Doom Eternal hit Game Pass on Xbox, coming to Game Pass PC sometime before the end of the year, they say. Right. And all Bethesda games are said to be coming to Game Pass soon. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella says they will buy more studios too. Yeah. I have to say, as someone who has become a begrudging fan of Microsoft in the last couple years, only because they seem to be the only game company doing the right fucking things and making good, positive toward their consumer decisions. Yes, definitely for now. Yeah. They seem to be the only company that I even have any modicum of trust for in the game sphere outside of like CD Projekt Red, maybe, and even then, they have stories pop up from time to time that I'm like, can you quit working everyone so hard? Yeah. And so this is I'm tremendously excited about this because, as people might note, I love Bethesda games, I love id Software games, and Bethesda has been on my Zenimax games has been on my no-buy list for a while now, and I've been upset about it because I really like their games. And now I can play them with no personal shame.
It does.
Take that, universe! I win!
It does almost nothing for me because I can't think of any Zenimax franchise that I care that much about.
Oh yeah, it's like if they made a company that was like, what's everything Saturn doesn't like? Right? Let's do all of that in one company. But man, they're right up there near the top of some of my favorite
Evil
properties.
Within, which is Tango Gameworks, which is also a division of Zenimax, which was developed, or it's a studio founded by a bunch of former Japanese horror game developers. And so Evil Within 2, I'll finally get a chance to play that because I skipped on that on PS4 and Xbox.
I'm excited to have classic Doom on all of my my Xbox One. Right. That's exciting. I love the old Doom games. Yeah. I'm just excited in general. Old Elder Scrolls games being on Game Pass.
Doom 64?
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely. If it's on Game Pass, I'm gonna play it. Yeah, I liked Doom 64. Is it bad? Is it thought to be bad? I don't actually know the popular opinion of Doom 64. Okay, I always thought people were like, yeah, that one's pretty good, but I know that it is very different.
Isn't Morrowind already on Game Pass?
It might be. I don't know.
I don't remember.
I don't know. A lot of Bethesda stuff is. I know they had at least a couple of the Fallouts on there for a long time. Like Bethesda games have been on Game Pass pretty regularly to begin with, but now they're just going to live there. Yeah. Internet sleuths tracked down the original texture files used in Mario 64.
Which is neat.
Yeah, it's neat to see them.
Right. See ultra high-res versions of what the stone looked like.
Yeah. New developer Future Club, founded by former Lab Zero employees.
That's good. I'm glad they got out of there because apparently
those were the Skullgirls people, right?
Yeah, Skullgirls and Indivisible, I think, was the name of the other one that was big by them. Mm-hmm. And it was apparently a very unfortunate situation in there.
It's bad, yeah. Andro Dunos, a Neo Geo shmup, is getting a sequel on Switch this year. The Neo Geo is just the Switch has just become the Neo Geo 2 at this point. I'm just gonna say it.
It's also the Dreamcast 2.
It's also Dreamcast 2. It's Sega Saturn 2. It's all the console
TurboGrafx 17.
Rumors pointed to re-releases of MGS 1 and 2 on PC, and GOG quickly quash those rumors by releasing MGS 1 and 2, as well as the original MSX Metal Gear and Konami Collector's Series Castlevania and Contra, all available on GOG.
So I went ahead and bought all of those because I'm a sucker. And
I hate Konami. Can I buy your games, please?
I'm trying to encourage Konami to make more games.
There you go.
And the only way they're going to do that is if people buy their games. So I went ahead and bought them all, and I tested them, and that classic series, Castlevania and Contra. So it's the 3 NES Castlevanias as well as Contra and Super C, and it was released on a CD-ROM for Windows 2000 back in the day. And I still have the disc, and it's terrible. It's not the best emulator. It runs just as bad as it did before. But now,
that sucks.
But it does scale to 4K now, so that's something. MSX Metal Gear plays excellently. I was very happy with that one. MGS1 uses the original Windows 98 port that Microsoft put out back in the day.
Oh.
And it runs fairly well on a modern PC. They did fix some things on it, and like the others, it also scales to 4K. But if you're using a Xbox 360 or Xbox One controller, it doesn't recognize the triggers. So you have to play around that. But if you use any other direct input controller, like a PS4 controller or a Switch controller, it runs fine and it plays normally. And the same goes for MGS2. It's Konami's native port, which was kind of slapdash, but technically functional. It was originally for Windows XP, if I remember.
Technically functional could be the tagline for Konami as a company at this point.
These days.
Konami, technically functional.
But back in that era, they were known for, quality, except for on PC.
Right.
So, but it's okay. It's an okay port. I would still personally recommend the HD collection on Xbox One or Vita or PS3. But if you just desperately want to play it on PC, don't use an Xbox controller and it plays fine.
Yeah. Nintendo issues DMCA takedown on Peach's Untold Tale, a hentai game 8 years in the making.
So close.
I can't say that I would have probably played the game, but it sucks that they worked on it for almost 10 years and then Nintendo was like, oh, it's a what? Oh, yeah, no.
I don't know how people go that long using somebody else's IP or copyright and think, I'll definitely get away with this.
Like, if you're just, like, making some Flash game or something, like, okay, yeah, you knock that out in a couple weeks. This is a fun project, but just 8 years, I couldn't imagine how devastating it would be as a developer to work on something 8 years, and then you're like, oh, never mind, we can't release our hentai game now.
I guess they could just change the art so that it's not Peach.
Right.
You would think.
But then that just kind of ruins the whole premise. Saturn.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Sony Xperia Play 2 phone prototype leaked.
Man, I wanted that Xperia Play so bad when it first came out.
I did too, and in retrospect, it looks like it'd be so shitty to play games on.
It would have been garbage. And the sequel also looks like it was about the same, but slightly better construction. And I can see why they canceled it.
Yeah. Blizzard co-founder Mike Morhaime founds new studio Dreamhaven.
We'll see what
which on paper I'm excited about, but we've had a lot of ex-Blizzard guys go on to make lots of different projects in the past, so I'm trying not to get my hopes up on this one because Activision is also on my do not buy list.
Yeah, fuck Activision.
So I would like to get back in on some Blizzard games that
are not under Activision.
Not by Blizzard, So that would be nice, but the last game made by ex-Blizzard employees I bought was Hellgate London.
How was that?
In I don't even want to talk about it anymore. So we'll just move on. Xbox Series X. Xbox Series X pre-orders go about as well as PS5 pre-orders. Yeah. Amazon reports spike in Xbox One X sales on Xbox Series X pre-order day.
Additionally, some disappointed kids, man.
I got you the new game box, little Timmy. Additionally, 1 terabyte expandable storage cards for the Xbox Series X will cost $219.99. But Nintendo did come out and say that the Xbox, the Series line of Xboxes will support USB 3 hard drives.
I believe Microsoft said that, not Nintendo.
Nintendo didn't say that. They might have said it, but we wouldn't have believed them.
Yeah, they didn't have anything to do with it.
Microsoft
They were just repeating
said
something.
that. Think in my head, I'm so happy with Microsoft right now. I've just replaced Nintendo with them.
Yeah.
But it is going to use them in kind of like a cold storage way because it's not the high speed of these new interfaces.
Right.
So you can store your games there, and when you go to play them, it'll take it off your USB hard drive and put it on the main hard drive.
Now, they did say that backwards compatible games that were Xbox One or Xbox 360 or Xbox can play off of those USB 3 drives.
Yes.
It's just new games that cannot.
Really, I don't love that price, but it's also new storage technology and technically a new interface. So, like, I get it being high.
Yeah.
But they've also kind of put a Band-Aid over the wound before it even opened with the whole you just keep using your USB hard drive, which I will. Yeah. Nintendo lists Kirby Fighters 2 on their website to no fanfare or announcement.
It's good.
You can buy it. or download it. I think it might be free. I don't know. It's there. No, it's not free. It's like $10.
Yeah, I think
Nintendo doesn't care. We don't either. Rocket League is officially free to play now.
Oh boy.
So you can play that. Amnesia: The Dark Descent and Amnesia: A Machine for Pigs, both released as open source titles in celebration of the series' 10th anniversary and in anticipation of the studio's upcoming sequel.
That's neat.
Very celebrated horror games. I played one of them for almost 10 whole minutes,
Oh, wow.
which is a lot
That's
for
a
me.
lot for
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I crapped my pants and passed out. It was scary. Sony is making a PS5 upgrade of the PS4 Spider-Man game free for buyers of select deluxe editions of the new PS5 Spider-Man game,
Yes.
but is sowing some confusion regarding the upgrade path for the game for all the owners of the title. Basically, Sony's just fucking, they don't have anything to fuck up right now, so they're inventing things to fuck up.
It's
They're
just,
like, we
it
don't...
feels like they're being unnecessarily confusing about.
Oh, you mean like always?
Yeah.
You know what else was unnecessarily confusing? The PS3 interface, why they didn't notify me about my credit card being stolen,
Yeah.
the entire Sony store on PlayStation 4 and how it keeps getting slower somehow as technology keeps advancing.
It's not as slow as the PS3 store.
Or the PSP one, which is a speed of 0 because you can't access it anymore.
Right. Well, you can access
but
it
I'm
through
not-
a PS3.
Oh boy, the speedy PS3.
Yeah.
That's going to be great.
You know, the one thing that Sony is not confusing or obtuse about is the names of the consoles. They got that part
Right. And how much money they want from you for them.
right. All of it. That's how much.
Bloomberg's Jason Schreier. That sounds weird to say.
Right?
Wow. That's fucking feels weird in the mouth.
I phrased it exactly that way in the notes just to see if you'd say it.
Former Kotaku member and current Bloomberg member Jason Schreier claims Final Fantasy XVI has been in development for 4 years and will be released sooner than expected. So that means, let's see, 4 years. It'll come out in 2028, I think. Yeah,
2038.
okay, yeah. I carry the 2.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see it in a decade.
Right.
Sega developing a movie based on the Yakuza series, which
Neat.
probably going to be pretty similar to all the other Yakuza movies because the games are just sort of making fun of Yakuza. It's weird.
Right.
We'll see how it goes. I mean, the last movie they did was Sonic, and that was pretty good.
Yeah. Was it?
And maybe we'll get fun Sega cameos by like Fantasy Zone guy or Samba de Amigo,
Yeah.
and he can get beat to death with a mountain bike by a Yakuza member.
They'll chase down the car from Outrun.
The more of this I say, the more I want a Sega Smash Brothers. Why don't we have that? Because that'd be great.
They do their racing games that
Yeah,
have a bunch of
that's
characters in
true.
them.
And everyone says the transformed one is really good. Anyway, let's get into the topic at hand. This week we're talking Super Mario 3D All-Stars,
Yes.
which, in case you are living under a rock,
And
is the second best. This is the second best-selling game on Amazon and was a long-rumored compilation of Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy released to celebrate Super Mario Bros. 35th anniversary in 2020.
You're allowed to breathe. It's okay.
And we do have some listener feedback. So let's jump into that.
Yes.
First up, Elton Daffs writes in, Christmas 1996. It's the same story everyone else has. You got the Nintendo 64 for Christmas, Super Mario 64, maybe a couple other games like Wave Race 64, Shadows of the Empire. I'm sorry. But Super Mario 64 was the draw. It was the one that gathered the family around the television in awe. We might be jaded old gamers by now, but there's still some magic to be felt in exploring the castle and its paintings. Oh yeah, Sunshine and Galaxy are on there too, I guess. Indeed they are. Rygar Starkong writes in, I'm a diehard Mario fan. As I've mentioned before, so I've had a period in my life where I stopped playing video games and missed Mario 64 and Sunshine on their releases. So when they announced the 3D All-Stars, I jumped on it immediately. I played 64 for a couple hours last night, and so far, I'm not terribly impressed.
Yeah.
I mean, I get why it was such a big deal, but honestly, it controls extremely rough.
Yep.
I haven't tried Sunshine yet. Galaxy is an absolute gem that I played to completion on the Wii, and I'm looking forward to revisiting. Cool Hand Stanman writes in, I initially played Mario 64 at Best Buy sometime just after its release. My cousin had the game, and we were able to track down most of the castle's 120 stars. I picked up a copy of 3D All-Stars from Best Buy, and I'm excited to get into the other 2 games I have yet to play. However, as I'm typing this, I'm stuck in the checkout of the Nintendo store as they're releasing a limited pin set with the game. You would think that a multinational corporation could anticipate a surge of nerds trying to check out upon release, but no!
Nope.
And I am preparing to smash my Chromebook shortly.
Yeah, I didn't get that because I was at work when they released it.
I was at home, and let me tell you, I didn't get it either.
Yeah.
Damachan87 says, out of the three 3D All-Star games, I have to say Sunshine is far and away my favorite. Super Mario Galaxy was one of the few games I got for my Wii before jettisoning it. Motion sickness aside, it was fun, but the space theme felt a little like it was crowbarred in to allow for the bonkers themes of the worlds. But Sunshine was beautiful. The island and all the levels felt connected, and like this could legitimately be an actual location rather than just a collection of themed worlds loosely tied together. And finally, the Todd Barker writes in, Super Mario 64 was honestly my main draw to the collection and seems to be the only one that let people down the most. I absolutely do not mind the aspect ratio, and I probably have some kind of Stockholm Syndrome thing going on with the camera controls. Yeah. And maybe I'm the only one that's so happy about this, but it has rumble now.
That's true.
As far as our first encounters, just kind of give history on these 3 games in particular. In brief, Mario 64 I played at release. I played it religiously for a long time. Super Mario Sunshine I tried once and said this is dumb and never went back. And I kind of did the same thing with Galaxy. So 2 of these games are relatively newish to me. I mean, I've gone back to those 2 games since in bursts, but not really sat down to play them.
Yeah, Mario 64, I got the N64 right around launch, and it was one of the 2 games available at the system's launch. So, of course, I played it a lot. Ended up getting 120 stars and set it down, and then was forced to replay it a lot by my nephew because he was just obsessed with the game. Mario Sunshine, I played a bit when it came out, probably got to like 30 or 40 shines, and just kind of fell out of love with it and stopped playing, and didn't pick it up again ever. And then Mario Galaxy, I started and I really enjoyed the idea of the game, but the Wiimote Nunchuck control scheme just really made me feel uncomfortable very quickly while playing it.
Same.
So I just never ended up getting past the first few hours of the game.
The game itself released on September 18th of this year, 2020. And the emulators appear to have been developed by Nerd, not a nerd, but the Nintendo European Research and Development Studio,
which
I assume is staffed by nerds. Right. And many nerds made this under the guise of Nerd. Yeah. So to just cover each game briefly, because obviously each one of these games could and should be its own episode at some point when we feel like doing it in the future. Right. Super Mario 64 originally released in 1996 as a launch title on the Nintendo 64. It was Mario's first 3D platformer and collect-a-thon game. It set a lot of standards for games, very much a watershed moment in 3D gaming.
Right.
Super Mario Sunshine released in 2002 for the GameCube. It was built on the foundation of 64, but with an island theme. And Mario has a water gun backpack named Flood that adds several new mechanics, but the extra buttons necessary to use it also remove some mechanics like crouching, long jumping, and backwards somersaults. And then Super Mario Galaxy originally released in 2007 for the Wii, which was basically Mario 64 plus motion controls plus weird gravity wonky level things.
Right.
The transition to motion controls didn't change the formula as much as you'd probably expect. It still feels very Mario 64-y as far as the controls
in a good
go.
way.
Other parts of the collection, because it's not just the games, it also includes the soundtracks.
Yay!
And
so you get like a code for iTunes, right?
I don't know if you've played with the soundtracks at all.
Briefly.
But it is a laughably poor presentation.
It basically just changes the menu music.
Yeah, there is no currently playing track data. There's no time on anything. There's no fast forward, no rewind, no. There's only stop. There's no pause.
There's not even a shuffle.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. There's next track. There's no seeking. There's literally nothing. And what frustrates me is this Smash Ultimate music player
Is excellent.
puts this one to absolute shame.
Plus, the Smash Ultimate music player will keep playing if the system is in sleep mode, so that you can just use your system as if it were a music player, whereas this one does not.
I don't really know why they would even list these soundtracks as a feature. It's that bad.
Yeah, it is pretty rough.
Like, at that point, they also just exist within the games.
Right?
I'll hear them there.
What? No, you won't.
No. I do have a specific complaint. Because I recorded my Mario 64 soundtrack from the game to a cassette tape.
Like a normal, sane person
Yeah.
would.
So I'm sitting there feeding my Digimon, recording Mario 64 to a cassette tape.
Like you do.
And I'm frustrated because if you just don't touch it, it goes into sleep mode and stops playing. It has a mode so that the screen will go off and it'll keep playing, but it makes sounds when you're selecting things. So you have to play the music, and now your music is playing and your tape is recording, and then you have to go ba-doop, ba-doop, ba-doop to turn it into the screen off mode, which puts those sounds into your music track. Well, it's almost like they didn't anticipate people recording this to cassette tape, Saturn.
That's weird. They actually released a CD soundtrack for it back in the day that you could probably rip from the internet and put on cassette tape without those sound effects.
First of all, I already have that.
Oh. Well then.
Second of all, I just leave me alone.
Okay.
It's a bad. The soundtrack thing being there is bad.
Yeah. There's a poor implementation. It would have been better off if they had not had it in there.
Yeah, I very almost agree.
Yeah.
It also includes a case
For some people.
Yeah. It also includes the feeling of smug superiority that you got in air quotes limited item.
Right.
Because I don't know if we mentioned, the physical version is allegedly only on sale for a limited time.
Through the end of March, if I remember.
Yeah, although they also kind of imply that the digital version is also limited.
Oh, they said outright that the digital version will also only be on sale through the end of March.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard a company do.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe.
And I cover the game industry.
My theory is that at the end of March, it will go away, and then 6 months later, they'll be like, by popular demand, and then they'll just bring it right back.
I've seen it brought up multiple times that they're going to break all the games out and sell them separately.
That could happen, but
I could see them doing that.
But these implementations, well, we'll get to that. I don't know if they're going to sell them separately.
Yeah. Let's jump into presentation and accuracy.
Yeah.
The menu itself is nice.
Yeah. What's there?
For a menu.
Yeah.
It's got nice fonts. These really nice looking. I forgot. I knew the name of it, but I've forgotten it. But very nice looking font.
Yeah.
And you can go and select a game, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's there's no options.
You can go to the soundtrack.
You can go to the soundtrack. You get the games and the soundtracks.
And then you're done.
There's no options or anything or display stuff or tutorials or manuals. And I am a little disappointed that within the games you can hit the minus button and open an actions menu, but it's just a big, long, sterile list of all the things Mario can do.
Yeah.
And for people that haven't played a 3D Mario, the controls are kind of complicated. Like there's a lot of different maneuvers you can do.
Yeah. And what gets me is with the Wii U Virtual Console and with NES Classic and Super NES Classic, they provided these really nice high-resolution scans of the manuals for everybody.
Right.
And this time they're just like, you get this one screen filled with commands and good luck.
And a tiny, tiny font.
Right?
But it's there. It's a functional menu.
It's
the
sufficient.
emulation. Yeah, the emulation itself, I will let you discuss because I didn't really even notice anything.
No, it seems fine.
I mean,
the emulation.
they seemed fine.
Yeah, this seems perfectly well done. They did do some little tricks where it recognizes certain memory addresses and replaces things with higher resolution textures, which looks nice. And you may not even notice it on the fly because the game is still such a low polygon count, but the texture level is a bit higher than what the original consoles were able to produce. And so you do get some nice looking things, but otherwise the emulation seems fine. It seems
It's functional.
It's sufficient.
Yeah, that seems like the best descriptor.
And then what they're saying is that on Galaxy it was half emulated, that the CPU is run natively on the Switch and the GPU is emulated, but I have no idea.
Yeah. Let's get into controls and presentation, which is kind of all there really is to talk about here.
Right.
So Super Mario 64, you have a very specific complaint.
Yeah.
That I've heard you state
I have a lot of
times.
complaints about Mario 64.
Well, but
Mario 64 specifically in this collection,
yes.
My complaint is with the controls because the analog stick is okay, though it loses the benefit of the 8-direction analog stick that the N64 had, where it had the notches in each of the 8 directions, which kind of helped you guide in a specific direction. But that's fine. You can get used to that eventually. But my big complaint is the camera, because on N64 it is 4 buttons, and on Switch it is 4 buttons that are controlled by the right analog stick. So when you use an analog stick to control a camera, you expect fluid, smooth controls. And even if you don't get fluid, smooth controls, you at least want to just hold the button and have the camera continue to pan. But you don't get that. You have to keep pressing it like it's a button. And if you want to pan up or down, your only option is to keep hitting the right analog stick up until it eventually goes into first-person view. But then if you move, it immediately cuts back out of first-person view, which is accurate. That's how the N64 did it. But it feels very awkward and wrong on an analog stick. And the camera itself was broken in the original game to begin with.
Right, because I feel like we're reaching a point where because you are not a lover of Mario 64 by any stretch of the imagination.
No, I loved it enough to play it a ton when it came out, but it has aged so poorly that I have learned that I cannot play it now. And I would actually go on record saying it is a bad game that is carried entirely by nostalgia.
I will say this, and this is a weird one for me. Before this episode and before this collection, I would have maybe not so harshly, but very, very much been in agreement with you that it was a great game that was great when it came out, and it's aged poorly.
Yeah.
I have enjoyed it more in this collection than any other time that I've tried to replay it in the past. I don't know what it is. I don't know why.
I got to 70 stars this time on the Switch. And the last probably 25 of them were so frustrating and anger-inducing that I rage quit and have not turned it back on.
That said, I don't share the camera complaint because again, like you're saying, like syndrome. I think that's what it is. And to put it in kinder terms, I think it's just familiarity. I'm so used to Mario 64 that it doesn't feel good or bad. It feels like Mario 64, if that makes sense. So it's hard for me to assess it.
Right.
But I will say...
Discord made a comment, which I feel is a valid criticism, which is that I always try to compare Mario 64 to the 8-bit Super Mario Brothers games.
Yes.
And I feel like it does not stand up at all to any of them because they were all really competent platformers, and the controls do exactly what you expect them to do. Whereas in Mario 64, if you hit the opposite direction of what you're going, sometimes he hard cuts and goes the opposite direction, and other times he walks in a little circle around where he's standing and will just walk right off the fucking edge instead of turning around. So there's a lot of unexpectedness there. And someone pointed out that I'm trying to compare it to the 8-bit Nintendo era, which was already a somewhat sophisticated era for 2D gaming, whereas I should probably be trying to compare it to the Atari era, which was the beginning of 2D gaming. and this is the beginning of 3D gaming. And when phrased that way, I am more willing to forgive some of its faults, but I still feel like it's aged really poorly.
I do wonder how much of it is a difference in play style, because this was the N64 was the first game console that was mine. Right. It wasn't my brother's, it wasn't the family's, it was mine. Yeah. And Mario 64, by extension, was the first home console game that was mine. I mean, I had handhelds and stuff before, but this was my console and my game.
Right.
And I played it in a very, and I still do, I played in a very sandboxy way, where I play until I hit something that seems hard, and then I just go in a different painting.
Right.
And I just repeat that process over and over and over. So the game has always felt like this big open sandbox to me, which it is not. It's a series of challenges within levels.
Right.
But
as a sandbox, it's very good.
Yeah, and I think if played that way, there's a lot of enjoyment to be had there. But I do think the game does reach a point where you are contending with the controls, and they hadn't quite figured out contextual controls yet.
Yeah.
But all that said, again, I accept that it is widely known that the game controls relatively poorly in the canon of Mario games, which is traditionally very super tight controls.
Right.
But I only understand it in an academic way, because to me, all of the incongruities of the control schemes I'm blind to them.
Right.
I sit down and I play it, and I'm like, it's Mario 64. It's exactly what I want. There it is.
Yeah.
Which isn't to say that I think it's like amazing or it is a pinnacle of design.
Right. Absolutely.
I don't know that it's an amazing game in 2020, but to me, it is a comfortable game in 2020, and it still maintains that.
As much as I bitch about the game, I still have to give it a ton of credit, and like level design and in objective design, it did a great job of teaching people what 3D platforming can be and what 3D exploration in a video game space is. And it did all that very well. It's just I don't think that it is held up to time because of...
If you want to really feel how revolutionary it seems, go play Croc and then come back to it.
Any of the early PS1 platformers before Mario 64 came out, it's hard to even try.
Yeah, so I would say that in the realm of 3D platformers, Mario 64 has aged very well. I would just say that early 3D platformers as a genre have not aged gracefully.
That's true.
Super Mario Sunshine, controls and presentation. The lack of analog triggers means the spray controls have been separated into two buttons, one for stationary spraying and one for mobile spraying.
Right.
And I will say that I find this superior to the original control scheme.
Me too.
It feels more precise, and it's easier for me to know exactly what's going to happen when I press the button.
The only complaint I possibly have about it, which is entirely a complaint with me and not the game, is that I constantly forget which one is which.
I did early on, and then eventually it kind of clicked with me.
I kept running full speed into enemies while spraying, thinking that I was going to stop. So
I've gone back and tried to play Sunshine since when it came out, and there have been a few times where I struggle with the controls on it, honestly. The analog triggers thing, and I always feel like I'm not fully in control of FLUDD. But in this presentation with these altered controls, I have no trouble controlling it. It feels good. It feels very tight. It feels great, honestly. My only real complaint is the camera is a little too zoomed out, so it gets a little stuck behind stuff, but that's just an issue with Sunshine, not with this version of Sunshine.
Right.
So I do think that this is an improvement. Finally, an improvement.
I don't know if they changed the camera controls at all from the original. I can't remember well enough on the original, but it feels like it's a little smoother than what I remember, but it does still constantly get stuck on everything.
They did also uninvert the controls. For people that weren't GameCube players, the GameCube was the champion of the invert player. GameCube games were inverted, and they defaulted to invert. And it's why I played invert for years, because I was a GameCube guy. And then when I moved on to other systems, I would have to I've eventually fixed that problem. But for people that are fans of Mario Sunshine, which presumably if you're buying a 20-year-old game recollected in a limited edition package, then you probably are already a fan. If you're a fan of Sunshine, it is going to fuck your day up. Especially if you've played a lot of it, because it uninverts the controls and you cannot flip it back because, again, there are no game-specific options.
However, you can system-wide change inputs. Can you change just the up and down, the y-axis on an analog stick?
I believe you can remap your controller in that way in the accessibility settings of the Switch.
Yeah.
But then it's a pain in the ass, and you have to unmap and remap over and over. It's a shitty oversight by Nintendo. Is what it is.
What you are you implying they might have half-assed this collection?
So and also we didn't mention in Mario 64, but as previously mentioned by the write-in, it's got Rumble. There's Rumble.
It is based on the later Japanese re-release of the game, and because of that, it also replaced some of the voice sound effects with the Japanese version.
There are some issues that have been reported where Mario Sunshine has some debug graphics visible in some areas. Yeah. I've seen them. It's not really a deal breaker.
Honestly,
but
it makes those areas easier, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah. But it does kind of smack of laziness, and it feels very un-Nintendo-like. Sure. And hopefully will be patched out at some point.
I imagine it probably will. If they ever touch it again. They might just decide that it's done and never touch it ever again.
Right. They might Link's Awakening remake it. Or they just go, oh.
Yeah.
And it is presented in very nice looking widescreen. Sunshine looks fantastic. And we didn't talk a lot about how Mario 64 looks, but it looks rough because it's early 3D. But if you have not played Mario 64 recently, let me tell you, it looks 1,000% better than regular Mario 64. It even looks better.
Like I said, they replaced the textures on a lot of things. So the things do look better than they did on the N64. It's still the same poly count, so things are still jagged and oddly shaped. But the the first thing that I was able to immediately notice was different was the faces on the Womps in that second area. Were clearly much higher resolution pictures than on the original. And that's when I started doing some research and saw how they use some sort of weird scripting method. They didn't actually change the ROM that they're emulating. They just use some script to look at memory addresses, and when they're called for, they swap it on the fly while it's playing.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Yeah. Super Mario Galaxy is probably the biggest changes in this one in the collection.
Yeah.
So for people that don't know...
Definitely.
Yeah, so for people that don't know, in Mario Galaxy, you had your nunchuck in your left hand with your joystick. That's how you moved Mario.
Right.
Your right hand was your buttons for your jumping and your whatever.
Yeah.
But then if you pointed your Wii remote at the TV, you got a star cursor. And you would use that star cursor to pick up star bits and the B trigger to fire star bits. And it was an integral part of the gameplay where you're having to platform with Mario, but also shoot enemies on the screen and pick star bits up.
Conversely, you could have a second player collect your star bits for you with a second Wii remote. And I believe they could fire them too?
Yeah. They basically took over your star bit controls.
Right.
And in this one, menus and starbit collection are done via an on-screen cursor, which is controlled using the gyro controls in either you can do split Joy-Cons, like the game regularly was, or you can do together Joy-Cons or Pro Controller, and they have gyro, and it works okay.
Yeah.
I played a little bit with my Pro Controller, and it was relatively serviceable.
Yeah, I was able to handle it all right on TV mode. I got used to it pretty quickly. It was still, it's not my preferred method of inputting in any game, but as far as the actual execution, it seemed fine. When I tried to play the game in tabletop mode, though, I was starting to get kind of disoriented by how wildly the cursor would move on the screen from what felt like very minimal movements. From my controller. So in tabletop mode, I don't know if I like the gyro controls.
Specifically, the motion control side of Galaxy just doesn't feel quite as good as it did on the Wii.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the technological hurdle is there. Obviously, this is via Bluetooth and gyro instead of
instead of using a cursor
infrared.
and the infrared.
Yeah. But it's not bad. I'll say that. Controlling with a Pro Controller is all right. It definitely feels like weird. Like you feel like it's wrong. It feels wrong.
Right.
it feels like you're doing it a way the game doesn't want you to do it. So like when you're playing with the Pro Controller, you're always dealing with the fact that your cursor's kind of always bouncing around on the screen because you want the cursor handy, so you have to point the controller at the screen, and your R button will recenter your cursor.
Yep.
Whereas when you're playing with Wii Remote and Nunchuck, you just kind of point your Wii Remote away, and then, there's some star bits, you point it back, it's fine.
Yeah.
Because your hands are split.
Right.
With the Pro Controller, it feels kind of weird.
Yeah.
And then we get to the biggest issue that I had with Galaxy.
Yeah.
I fired the game up in handheld mode, and in handheld mode, the menus and star bit collection are handled entirely via touchscreen. So ZR...
It's just a pointer. That's probably great, right?
ZR fires a star bit.
Right, just like...
And it fires it wherever your pointer was last pointing, wherever it's sitting at. And you can also tap the screen to fire star bits. Here's the problem. 1, it is not comfortable to balance my Switch with one hand and tap the screen with the other hand. 2, doing so requires that I either fully or at least partially let go of my control stick and stop controlling Mario, and sometimes you need to fire star bits while running, like when fighting a boss.
Right. Are you implying that maybe the company that released Star Fox Zero would release a awkward control scheme?
I know. I'm shocked too. These people gave us Kid Icarus Uprising. Okay. They know control schemes.
Right.
And the third issue is that sometimes in Galaxy, you need a star bit to progress through a level.
Right.
And you'll need 100 star bits. I almost called them star butts. 100 star butts to feed to a Luma.
Yeah.
A little star guy.
That's where I get my coffee, at Starbucks.
Good old star butts. So you need 100 star bits, and you've got, I don't know, let's say exactly 97, because that's how many I had. And I go, I got to go find some star bits. Okay. So I run off, and star bits pop up somewhere. They're just exploding off of things everywhere because you're in space. Yeah. And I go to touch them, and when I go to touch them, it starts shooting star bits. And I pick up 3 star bits, but I shot 2 star bits. And now I'm stuck in this horrible star bit limbo where picking up the star bits loses me star bits. And it is frustrating. It's not fun to play with a touchscreen. Yeah. It feels broken and wrong. The game doesn't respond very well to it. And I would say that if you are going into this collection saying, man, I don't give a crap about Sunshine and Mario 64. I'm the biggest Mario Galaxy fan in the world, and I cannot wait to have it handheld mode on my Switch Lite.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be a big
I would recommend that you absolutely do not buy this, because the handheld mode on Mario Galaxy is unplayable. And what I do not fucking understand is that they could have set it so that the L button turns like your right stick, for example, into a cursor control, and ZR fires.
Yeah.
That would have worked fine.
Yeah.
Picking up star bits would have still been a little bit of a pain.
Sure.
But, I say fine. It would have functioned. Right. It would have been functional. Wouldn't have been great.
Yeah.
But
I would have far preferred the right analog stick to any of the options that they made available.
And it wouldn't have been great, but okay. I mean, the other option is your Switch with Joy-Cons in handheld mode has gyro. They could have just maybe they could have made it so that when you push L, it activates your gyro in your Switch, and now all of a sudden you're gyro aiming. That would have worked fine too.
Right. And we know that gyro works in handheld because it works in Splatoon 2.
And I've been trying to figure out why they made the handheld controls so bad, especially not that long after releasing their Switch Lite, on which this game would be basically unplayable.
Yeah.
And the only thing I can come up with, and I will admit that this is me making excuses for Nintendo, but the only reason I can think is that I have personally experienced some motion sickness while playing handheld mode.
Yeah.
And I think it has to do with I was standing and walking around my kitchen and playing, as I often do.
Yeah.
And the platforming, the very topsy-turvy, gravity-oriented platforming in Galaxy, combined with it being in handheld mode and me moving it around slightly while playing, made me motion sick. And I don't get motion sick easily.
Right.
And the only possible excuse that is not a technical excuse, which is that maybe gyro aiming in Galaxy could make people motion sick.
Maybe.
But even then, why not let us activate the aim and control it with the right stick? Why not both? why not turn on an option where I can go, hey, right stick for controlling my Starbit cursor in handheld mode, or I can turn on gyro aiming. Why not let me decide?
Yeah.
I paid you $60 for it.
Yeah.
The only positive move for the controls is the spin move has been mapped to a button. So I think it was a shake before, right?
Yes,
You had
it
to
was
shake
a
it.
shake before. Now it's on the Y or X button, or you can shake. It also works that way.
Yeah. And the game is also presented in widescreen, like the original was, and it looks great.
Yeah,
It's a very good-looking game. I'm not a huge fan of how dramatically shaded Mario Galaxy is.
Right, but that's how it always was.
Yeah, but it is a very good-looking Mario Galaxy.
I'm still waiting for Digital Foundry or somebody to do a Chinese NVIDIA Shield Galaxy versus Switch Galaxy to see which one looks better.
Yeah.
I feel like somebody is going to do that video someday.
So of these three, I do want to say Mario 64, it is Mario 64, and it is a very good version of Mario 64. I'll put it out there. I don't share your issue with the camera controls.
I have heard from some other people online that have not played Mario 64 before, and they said the cameras made it basically unplayable for them.
Like it definitely, I admit that it feels weird. Like the second I hit a stick and it's just like boop, and it just goes like an inch.
That was another complaint that I've heard is from new players who haven't played it before. Hearing that sound effect every time the camera moves makes them want to kill someone.
Yeah, so I because that was in Mario 64, that particular, I don't have that issue. But it looks great, it plays great. Again, it features rumble. It's a well-presented version of the game. It's possibly the I don't want to call it definitive or anything, but if you're looking to play Mario 64, it looks better than the original. In my opinion, it controls better than the original because I don't like the N64 controller to begin with. The only real comparison I could make would be the Wii U Virtual Console release, or maybe the DS version. And neither of those were very celebrated. So I guess I am going to say this is probably the definitive so far version of Mario 64, but the competition is not really there.
I'd say it's the definitive legal version.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're emulating, then you're going to have a much better time playing
the PC native port that people released.
Oh, yeah.
Really
so
nice.
if you're playing that version, it's going to look way better.
Yeah. And it's widescreen.
But yeah, it is the definitive legal version of the game that has been released. I will say, without a doubt, I think this is the best version of Mario Sunshine and the best presented of these three. It improves the original control scheme. It is in widescreen. It looks great. It sounds great. It controls really good.
It's still a mean game, though.
Yeah, it's still Mario Sunshine.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. We're not assessing the game itself, but this is the star of this collection for me as far as how well presented it is and added features and fixing things. That's my thing. When you re-release something, fix the problems. Fix things. Don't add problems. Seriously. Konami and Nintendo. Fix things.
Yeah, I would agree. Sunshine is the best improvement in here, and also it's the first time Sunshine's been re-released since the GameCube version.
Yeah, I do. We have another section of this show, and to give context, it's hard because I've seen a lot of dissent over this collection, and I've seen a lot of people being confused over the dissent to this collection. And I don't want to tell you what to think or how to think, but I do want to give some context to people who are less than thrilled at this collection. For Sunshine and Mario 64, they are the games you possibly know and possibly love, and they're here and you can play them. For Galaxy, as long as you're not playing handheld mode, same goes. They're there, you can play them, they exist, they're on a platform they weren't before, and they look better than their original incarnations. Yes. But in the realm of compilations and re-releases, there is a certain minimum expectation that I think we have a right to have as consumers. I feel like the bar has been set somewhere. And I think when you're charging full price for a re-release of your games, I think there are some minimum creature comforts that we would very much like to have. So in that vein, we are going to very quickly compare this collection to other similar collections that have released.
And this is clearly every collection that's ever been released.
Definitely not. But this will hopefully paint it for people that are like, you got the games, you can play them, what more do you want?
Right.
Maybe this can paint a picture of, well, this is what we want. This is Nintendo. This is the company that, supposedly cherishes these games so much so that they are very strict with re-releases.
Yeah.
They don't want anyone to have anything. They DMCA take down everything. They're very protective of these games and these franchises.
They finally pulled them out of the vault.
Yeah, so when they do Disney Vault re-release them, I want to be excited. I want it to be the best version of the game. I want it to look great and play great and sound great and feel great. And this collection, while the games exist, and your opinions of the games may differ depending on the games, as a collection, it leaves some things to be desired.
There's a lot to be desired.
So let's start with comparisons to other compilations we've seen, and I want to start with another collection of Mario games that Nintendo did.
Yep.
And that's Super Mario All-Stars.
Which is almost 30 years old now.
Yep. It was a 1993 compilation of the 4 8-bit Mario games with some later printings also including World.
Yes.
And it was 4 complete bottom-up remakes of these original games.
This is where the bar was set.
They added ability to save the game from the pause menu.
Yep.
And again, that should be added. This collection has no form of, even though they're running in emulators, no form of emulator creature comforts. Fast forward, rewind, save states, nothing of the sort.
Right.
So they completely remade the games. They added save states. The graphics and sound were all upgraded to look great on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
And they look very in line with Super Mario World.
Yes.
And by extension, the physics from Super Mario Brothers and the Lost Levels were a little bit more inaccurate. They're a little different from their original incarnations because these are remakes. So there was an issue with this collection.
Yeah.
But Super Mario Brothers 2 and 3 are excellent ports. They're still my preferred versions of both of those games,
excellent versions of those
barring maybe the GBA versions.
Right.
So Nintendo themselves have done this before. They have completely remade Mario games to remaster them. Would I expect them to go this far with these games? No, I would not. They're 3D games.
They did include the word All-Stars right in the fucking title. I kind of expect
they really did
All-Stars
seem to want to draw
quality.
parallels. Yeah. Another big collection, Mega Man The Wily Wars, which is a 94 port of the first 3 Mega Man titles to the Sega Genesis. Graphics and sound were upgraded similarly to All-Stars. Yep. Some of the upgrades are a bit controversial.
Yes.
Mega Man 2, Mega Man 2 lost the easier difficulty. Right. The physics feel very different sometimes.
Yeah.
And so if you're like Mario 1 in All-Stars, if you're very used to the physics of the original, it might be a little different.
Yep.
And a new game mode, Wily Tower, added 3 new stages and bosses where Mega Man can choose any 8 weapons from the first 3 games, as well as 3 support items.
Yeah.
Another collection, Mega Man Legacy Collection. This went the opposite direction of Wily Wars, which was just clean emulation of the original games in their original forms.
Yes.
So this is to people that are saying you can't expect them to remake all these games. Well, in the Mega Man Legacy Collection, they did not. But what they did do was they emulated them perfectly for preservation purposes. They added new challenges and achievements that were outside of the 6 original games, and they included art, development, drawings, interviews, and sound tests, all rounded out a very nice package. None of which is present in 3D All-Stars. I mean, this is the company that made it that's re-releasing. You don't have like some art assets or like any. There's nothing to show us.
And that wasn't even made by Capcom themselves. It was made by Digital Clips, who make excellent work. By the way, I'm not trying to knock them by any way.
And then you have what I would say is kind of the closest comparison, to Mario 3D All-Stars. And that is the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy and the Spyro Reignited Trilogy, both of which are remakes, full ground-up remakes of the original Crash and Spyro games with new graphics and sound. They look fantastic on modern hardware. They include quality of life improvements like checkpoints. They updated pause menus and save systems and auto saves. Cutscenes were redone from scratch, featuring the current voiced cast.
Yep.
They basically just remade 3 entire games and they put them in a package for $20 lower than MSRP.
Right.
And I don't like to give Activision credit. We all know that.
Right.
But these were I would say these are the gold standard of remakes. This is, if I had my way, every remake would be this every 3D game remake
It feels like a modern equivalent to Super Mario All-Stars.
So again, is it just people being entitled and privileged to demand things from companies? No, I don't know that it's that. I think that it's in the realm of remakes and collections, it just feels lazy. The games are all still there. They're all still fully playable. Of course they are, but they've also been fully playable on my computer for 2 decades.
And also, keep in mind, the Crash trilogy and the Spyro trilogy, both of those were, what, $40?
Yeah, they're $20 less than MSRP.
They weren't
$40.
They weren't $60 and available for a limited time?
No, you could just go out and buy. You can still go out and buy them right now.
Right now. And I bet you can even find them on sale.
Now, again, it's going to depend on whether or not you like Spyro or Crash. But I would say that they improved these games enough that even if you didn't like them the first go-around, you might like them this time. Yeah. I would not say that of any of these Mario games. If you didn't like any of these the first time, this collection ain't going to convince you of anything. They are what they are.
Yeah.
So it's this situation where even the recent Konami Classics collections, not the one that just came out on GOG, that's technically an old collection, but like the Contra and Castlevania collections have more bells and whistles than this.
Yeah.
And Konami doesn't fucking care about anything, especially Konami.
Yeah. Konami has barely existed as Konami.
So, as far as the games, I'm not disappointed that they're available and that we can buy them for $20 each in a $60 package.
Yeah.
I'm upset that it's just literally the ROMs. Yeah. And it feels like this should have just been thrown up on some virtual console that no longer exists instead of sold to me as a $60 package.
Yeah.
Did some effort and programming go into it? Of course it did.
Yeah.
Absolutely, of course it did. But it was just kind of programming emulators.
Right.
And it's just kind of disappointing that it wasn't more, that it wasn't bigger. I mean, obviously, Nintendo doesn't care. They got their money. It's the second best-selling game of the year. Why would they care that it was slightly disappointing? But it's 3 Mario games. It is what the label promises. Yeah. No more, no less.
What gets me is they apparently put in some level of effort, because they did put in some new textures, and they did make some menus, I guess. But
granted, they put in the new textures in the weirdest way possible, which is just hot swapping them out of memory. It feels like a cheat, but it works and it looks good.
Right. But it feels like if they were going to be putting in effort, they put in the absolute bare minimum they could get away with. Yeah. And then still
they spent all their budget on that really nice menu font.
Right. Yeah. They had to pay the cast of the Great Gatsby movie for the rights to that font.
Yeah. So it feels weird being down on this because, again, the games are still the same games. If you liked them, you'll still like them. Yeah. It's just frustrating that not only is it limited for no discernible reason except to whip people up into a fervor, and it worked for both of us. We both bought it physical. Yeah. So here we are, talking about how disappointing it is, but we just gave Nintendo $60 plus tax for the privilege. Yeah. But it's yeah, I just wish they'd done more with it.
I've paid somebody to disappoint me.
So it's this thing where I wouldn't say I'm disappointed with the collection because I still like some of the gameplay in here. I like it a lot. Mario 64 is still a lot of fun, and like I said, it's the most fun I've had with the game in a long time. So there is still some magic here, as our listener write-ins said. It just would have been so easy to add a lot more magic for not much more effort. I mean, heck, even just this exact same collection with some developer interviews, sketchbooks, anything would have been tremendously interesting.
Oh yeah.
Or just maybe give me a pause function on the soundtrack thing.
I would say I am disappointed with the collection, not with the games, but with the collection. I feel like it is. It feels half-assed. It feels phoned in. I'm disappointed that they want to charge me $60 for things that are so easily emulated that you could play any of them on almost any modern phone.
Yeah.
And it's just disappointing that that's what they wanted to use to celebrate Super Mario Brothers 35th anniversary.
And what's weird is Mario All-Stars hit SNES Online, and that's still great.
Oh, yeah. That's a great collection.
Oh, boy, I played a bunch of that.
I played through all four of those games.
I would say the only real satisfying part about this collection to me in my head is that now with this and the original All-Stars and 3D World coming out later on, I had almost every mainline Mario game is available on Switch, which that's cool.
Yeah.
Barring Galaxy 2, barring
Yoshi's Island.
All
the Mario Land games.
For handhelds, I kind of consider that a different camp mentally, even though 3D World is very much a follow-up to 3D Land.
Well, I guess they could just release that collection on their handheld system then.
Yeah, most definitely. they'll definitely do that.
Right.
It just, honestly, I'll say this. If this exact set of games in their exact current state was just like, hey, free for Nintendo Switch Online members,
right,
I would be singing their praises.
Or if they had just sold it for $20 or $30, I would have been very happy with it.
Oh, yeah, I'd have been happy with that as well. It's the limited thing combined with the high price point, combined with the very bare bones package that makes the whole thing like I would say this, they had to try to make it a disappointing collection. But again,
10 years
ago,
ago,
still there.
For the 25th anniversary, they re-released Super Mario All-Stars on Wii. And it was just the Super NES ROM running on a Wii.
On a disc,
that was updated to work with a Wiimote instead of a classic controller, because most Super NES games on Virtual Console, you needed a classic controller.
Right.
And this one would work with just the Wiimote. And that's literally all they did to change it. But it came in a package with an art book and a bunch of development drawings and a bunch of early... I think it also had a soundtrack in there, too, like a CD soundtrack that you could play without your system being on. And
like, I understand that, again, am I expecting the Spyro and Crash remakes?
Right.
No, I'm not expecting. I'd like that, but I'm not expecting that. But how hard is it to put in a PDF with some art or something, anything?
And when you open the case for this new one, it's just as bare bones and empty as any other Switch game you see these days.
I mean,
just some art.
Put some stickers in there.
Right.
Put a sticker in there. You know what should have happened? It should have came with that pin set that everyone was killing each other over online. That one that everyone's scalping on the internet. It should not be limited, and it should have come with the goddamn pins.
Seriously.
Then I would still be upset that it's a bare bones collection, but hey, at least I got some tchotchkes. I got it physical. Cool.
Yeah. It's very disappointing.
Anyway, we wouldn't be disappointed in you if you wanted to support the show at patreon.com/Retro Warriors, where you can get wonderful things like our spin-off show, Talking Wizards, which is weird.
Also not a disappointment.
Also not a disappointment. That's the new tagline for Talking Wizards. Talking Wizards, not a disappointment. And we would very much love to have your support. If you cannot or choose not to support us financially, you can support us emotionally by hanging out with us in Discord and telling your friends about the show. It would be great. There are links in the show that you're listening to right now, so feasibly you have access to them. You've done it. It's the future technology. Anyway, thanks for listening. Again, stay tuned after the credits. We're going to have our producer Guy on for the after party.
Indeed.
And it's going to be a good time. Anyway, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. And as always, let us cling together. And welcome to the after party with our producer, Guy.
Hey, Guy's here.
Hi, Guy. How's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
I say as if I haven't been talking to you all night. I'm disappointed in this collection.
Yeah.
But that's over now.
I have not given
in a general
Nintendo my
sense.
money, and now I don't intend to. Thank you.
Yeah.
You know what? I appreciate that you had reserve that Saturn and I did not, because while we claim to not be shills, well, we turn around and spend our money like we are.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I take it back. We both claim to be shills.
Yeah, I'm absolutely a shill.
That's
To be fair, some of the money you spent on it may have just been my money anyway. So
That's true. That's true.
And it was research for the show.
So, Guy, you did buy the collection.
damn it.
but I didn't. I'm superior. I get to lord it over you.
Oh, hey, speaking of companies you hate, I want to talk to you about your news article that you didn't seem enthused about.
What news article?
That Mike Morhaime is starting his own company.
Oh, yeah. No, please don't, because you're a big Blizzard guy and continue to support them. That sounded aggressive. I wasn't trying to sound aggressive. I meant to say you still actively engage with the company and play their games. And I know you're a big Blizzard fan, and I remember you were very excited about it. So please enlighten me.
Big jerk face still giving them money.
Right.
Didn't mean for it to come out that way.
Well, I love Mike Morhaime from a standpoint of like when he's speaking at BlizzCon, you can tell that he's really into these properties. You know, he was
right.
He's very much a process first kind of guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so just as a general rule, I like him. So, you know, when he left Blizzard, it's like it felt like that was good for him in the long run, right? And like maybe he was, you know, forced out by Activision's choices, if not, you know, actually forced out or whatever, right?
Right.
And so when whatever his next project was, you know, I was going to be excited about it. And apparently he had no intention of starting a new company. And then after, you know, when he left, and then after a year was like, you know what, maybe. So I started reading this VentureBeat article about it. And he says, we're almost trying to create a haven for creators who want an environment that is development friendly, values product and player experiences over short-term financial pressures. And so it's the right direction for one.
Yeah. Right.
Right, but to be fair, that's still technically the operating procedure of EA and Activision on paper.
Right.
Not that I'm doubting him or his ability or his intentions.
Right. But just
I do hope it pans out. I feel like it sounds so negative. I do hope it pans out. I do want Blizzard games from not Activision. Please, anyone.
Right.
Well, and the way they're structuring it, it's two studios. Like there's the main, whatever it is, Dreamhaven, Gloomhaven. I don't remember.
It's Dreamhaven. Gloomhaven's a giant board game.
Okay, Dreamhaven is going to be like the parent company that provides like HR services, communication, equipment, things like that.
Right.
And then the studios are going to be run independently by teams. So they've got a studio called Moonshot, which has Jason Chase, Dustin Browder, and Ben Thompson.
Okay.
I've got all their trading cards.
Yeah. Hey, trading cards. Thompson's credits include creative director for Hearthstone and art director for Hearthstone, with additional credits on Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering.
If they sold packs of game developer trading cards, I would 1,000% buy them.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And I'd make Saturn come to my house so I could trade into him.
Yeah.
He'd have like a foil Miyamoto, and I'd be like, I got 3 John Romeros. I got early John Romero, and then later I trade him to... He'd be like, no.
I've got Iwata's final form.
That's both hilarious and very sad.
And like Dustin Browder is like the designer of like StarCraft and shit. So you know that's a good
original
thing.
Or StarCraft 2?
He's
both?
the director for StarCraft 2 and Heroes of the Storm.
Okay.
But he was involved in like Warcraft and things like that. And then the other one's run by other, you know, ex-Blizzard employees, you know, involved in Warcraft 3 and StarCraft. Old Blizzard.
I really hope their new project is just like a Warcraft 3 follow-up first. Please, please give us Warcraft 4 with the serial numbers filed off. It's been so long, and Blizzard clearly doesn't want to do it. They just want us to buy phones, apparently.
Yeah.
So hopefully it all works out. I'm excited about it. We'll see what happens, but yeah. I just wanted to revisit that for people who are like, "What do you mean you're not excited?"
I mean, again, like it's one of those things. Like, I think I'm just, if I'm being honest, I'm just cynical. That's the real answer. Is that I'm cynical and untrusting of the entire industry and everybody in it. But when they announce a product, I promise you, I'll be first in line to be excited about it.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Form a line.
You know,
Mr.
PC Engine.
So many times by so many companies that I just have no more faith at all anymore.
Yeah, Saturn, tell us about Mistwalker that was going to revive the genre.
God, yeah. That pissed me off so hard. So, Guy, do you remember that whole bit, the whole Mistwalker thing?
No.
That was
basically a Japanese version of what you're describing that just happened.
Yeah, Hironobu Sakaguchi, the creator of Final Fantasy, when he left Square Enix after the production of Final Fantasy XI, he founded a new studio called Mistwalker, and he was like, I'm going to revive the JRPG genre, and we're going to take things back to their roots, and we're going to make this an international success. And they released Lost Odyssey on Xbox 360 and Blue Dragon, and now they make mobile games.
Yep.
Awesome.
Which, granted, Lost Odyssey and Blue Dragon, in retrospect, have become quite beloved.
Oh, yeah. I mean...
They weren't beloved at the time. I was there, and I can tell you, they were like, "Fuck those games." No one on Xbox wanted that.
Yeah, well,
it was
because they were trying to release new experimental JRPGs on the Xbox 360 at launch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good. Yeah, I'm
hopeful, but
I'll be honest. I keep thinking about game developer trading cards now. If I had a foil Yuji Horii, would you trade your foil Miyamoto for it?
Yeah, I'd do that.
Okay. What if instead of a foil Yuji Horii, I had both Cliffy B variants?
No, you get to keep
Damn.
Cliffy B. I'm sorry. Maybe if you had Will Wright and the Sid Meier rookie card, I would consider it.
Sid Meier rookie card.
You just throw away the Nolan Bushnell ones, though?
Yes, those go straight to the fucking trash.
You don't throw trading cards away. You put them in the spokes of your bicycle wheels. It sounds like a dirt bike.
We're adults. We have cars, sir.
Yeah.
You can put it in your car.
Also, these are game developer trading cars, so they don't go in a bicycle. They'd maybe go in like I don't know.
They could go in your computer fan, so your computer sounds like a dirt bike. Sorry, that's my Nolan Bushnell trading card I have jammed in my CPU fan.
It's melting my PC right now, just like
Every
the
time you
real
play-
Nolan Bushnell.
When I play Doom Eternal, it actually generates a sine wave. Oh man,
it's awful.
No, I'm excited at the idea of it. But I'm gonna wait for a product to be announced.
Right, definitely.
Yeah, no, I guess I'm one of those people that when Activision bought Blizzard, it was the death knell for the old Blizzard design philosophy.
Right.
Oh yeah, even though they argued for the longest time that it wasn't, and then obviously it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's hard, I think, because a lot of times studios that have gotten bad or toxic or manipulative still release good products from time to time. Right. You know, for every Fallout 76, there's a Doom 2016. For every whatever EA Sports title you want to pick, literally any of them, there's a Command & Conquer remastered. You know, these companies, they do know how to release a good product, and I don't know all of the factors into why they choose not to so often. Why I do know the factor, lots of money,
right?
And people probably won't care about this particular project on a critical front,
right?
And so it's really frustrating sometimes when I'm like, okay, I'm not buying from these people, and then they release the thing, and I'm like, oh man, but that looks real good, and everyone says it's great. You know, like Activision, for everything Activision does, there's a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater remaster and Spyro and Crash remakes, you know.
Yeah, their remasters have been on point. They seem to be.
Yeah, and so it's frustrating that...
Speaking of that exact category of game for you, how's Doom going?
So Doom Eternal did hit Game Pass, and I'm only one chapter in, so I've played it for like 30 minutes, you know, it was if that. And it's absolutely... top to bottom, every single solitary second is incredible. I mean, just downright fucking fantastic. And obviously, it could deviate from there. Maybe they start throwing a bunch of cutscenes at me. I know they won't. But I don't, you know, I've played half an hour of it, but it was like coming home. Like the second I booted it up and started shooting stuff, I was like, "Oh man, this is great. It feels good."
Yeah, when I first played it, it had me like seeking out all of the, you know, extras you can get on that first level. Like it's very rewarding in that sense.
I love and I heard some complaints about this. People were saying like, "Hey, I don't like how it kind of boxes you into playing extremely non-stop aggressively."
Yeah.
but that's how I like to play Doom anyway. Like, if it's not literally end-to-end explosions and gore and bullets and me picking stuff up to elicit more explosions, gore, and bullets, I don't, you know what I mean? I'm unhappy. Whenever I'm like wandering around a room like, where's the blue key? Like, I'm bored. I'm unhappy. And Doom Eternal is basically just a long string of decapitations formed into a game. And I like that a lot.
Yeah, I got significantly better at the game when I just stopped letting go of the W.
Yeah, I am disappointed that it is on Game Pass for Xbox, not on PC, because I would prefer that with a mouse and keyboard. It does require some accuracy. But I'm getting used to the controller. And my thought was, I was like, well, I'll play it on Xbox One because it's here, and then I'll probably wait for the PC version. But it's so good that I can't. I'm not going to stop. I'm just going to keep going, and I'll play it again when it comes out on PC, probably.
Well, you know what? You're an adult, and you can make your own decisions.
It's true.
I'm allowed!
Especially since it's on Game Pass, and you're not even having to buy it twice this time.
Yes, you also are allowed adult.
So I'm I'm so I'm so very I'm already in love with it. My biggest complaint of Doom 2016, which is to say it is an extremely tiny complaint objectively, but it was really my only complaint with Doom 2016, was the aesthetic felt a little bland. I love old Doom. I love how bright and colorful it is. I love the old Doom art. Right. It's so visceral and cool looking. It looks like Molly Hatchet album covers, which, and as soon as I say that, I remember Frank Frazetta did Molly Hatchet's album covers. But it just looks like that like old super realism kind of art, and it's really cool and really evocative. And Doom 2016 kind of didn't have that. It had it a little bit, just because it was obviously modernizing classic Doom stuff, so it was kind of in there. But this one, it is aesthetically, it's on point. It feels right. Nice. And I don't know it's very saturated, lots of colors. Like when you cut a guy in half with a chainsaw, a fucking rainbow shoots out of them.
Oh yeah. I love the equipment rainbow. Great.
A straight up rainbow. The first time I cut a guy with a chainsaw, I was like, "What is that? That's awesome! He's bleeding rainbows." It was fantastic. So I'm very into it.
Yeah, I like the varied color weapons. It's I enjoy it.
The more you talk about it, the less I'm sure if I'm even going to bother to download it at this point.
Oh yeah, I don't think you would like it at all. It's if I were to describe it, it's like if someone combined like velvet paintings and heavy metal and said, make it a video game. Right. That's what it is. It's like a Gwar album under a neon light. It's great.
I get very exhausted very quickly when there's way too much action back to back in a game, and I end up needing to take frequent breaks.
This is literal nonstop action. And when you do try to stop, you die. Yeah. If at any point you're like, I'm going to go back around and check around this little corner here, maybe there's a Sikh, I died. It's I will say it's a very tough game, and I don't know if I'm just not accustomed to the playstyle yet, but it seems a lot harder than Doom 2016 by a lot. You have to literally be using every single ability, grenade, every type of ammo, every weapon modification nonstop in a constant chain to keep going, or you just die. Yeah. And it's been fun. I'm excited. And so that's my review of the first 30 minutes of Doom. Hopefully I'm not here next week going, Chapter 2 sucks, but I doubt it.
I stopped playing the game because I went into like a purple bonus room or whatever, and I'm just determined to beat it, and I haven't been able to. I could easily just quit the room and continue with the game, but damn it.
I know that.
Yeah. Yeah, that ain't me. As soon as I hit a thing, and I'm like, that's hard. Goodbye. I'm going to go shoot demons with a chain gun till rainbows come out of them. Like, I'm not.
I'm with you guys. When I hit a challenge in a game that I know I technically can finish right now, I won't move on. I won't move on till it's finished.
All this talk, though, has me wanting to boot it up while you guys are talking about whatever it is you're talking about next week.
Sometimes I'll skip challenges in games that I've not even tried just because I'm like, I don't care. I don't want to. I don't feel like it.
Can't do it.
Anywho, we should probably wrap things up because we have another show to do tonight.
Yeah.
But Guy, thanks for coming by and producing the show.
Yeah. Happy to.
It's nice to have you.
Oh, well, it's nice to be here. Thank you.
And I do hope you're right. I hope that this Blizzard successor company ends up being exactly what you want it to be.
They should have just called it Blizzard 2.
Yeah. Electric Boogaloo.
Anyway, thanks for listening. Good night.
Bye.